So this is going to be like a quick primer on the whole C++ versus Blueprint thing. First, we're going to take a look at a project which is Blueprint only, and then we're going to take a look at a project which is Blueprint and C++. And we're going to go through and compare sort of as we go along where you might want to use one or the other. Right, so in our first project, we're going to take a look at how the inventory system works. I'm going to do a practical example first. Let's do that right now. So we can pick these things up. We can't pick these things up because this is iron. So we need to get over to the crafting table over here. Then we'll craft a pickaxe and now I can pick it up, right? The inventory component for the character, that's where the sort of magic happens. And this is the prime example of where you might want to use C++. We're going to go through that a little bit later on in the video, the C++ variant of this, that is. But anyway, Blueprint only, we're adding to an inventory map, right? So what we're going to do here is we're going to find the item name of the item that we're going to do, and then we are storing the found integer variable in a temporary variable, and that storing for later needs to be done because of the way the find node works. That's the first thing. That's like why you may not want to use blueprints for this exact purpose. Anyway, if it finds the thing, it's going to add to the thing. What we're doing is we're removing from the inventory map over here, right? We're removing the item completely, and then what we're doing is we're adding a new map with the found value storage, adding the item amount to that. We're going to clamp it to a stack size of 5,000 because whatever, and then we're adding that new pair, right? The reason I can't use the find value is because when I remove the thing from here, right, it goes through here, it goes back through all the calculations, it reaches this and it says, oh wait, I don't have a pair, right? I don't have an inventory, the map pair that corresponds to the inventory map and the item name. So I'm going to return 0 out of here, and then this whole value will just be 1. Over and over, it'll just be 1. So we need to hook this value up because this is now stored before we remove. So this value is now stored here before we remove it, and because of the execution bits, this right here is going to execute over here, right? So we're removing the pair and we're adding it back in with the manipulator value that we get out from here, and then boom, 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 over here, boom. If it hasn't found anything, so if this returns false, it just adds that new thing. And now, of course, this is going to be 0, so that's going to be 1. So it now adds whatever item and then 1 to it, right? So that's the blueprint example. We're going to go over just in a second. We're going to go over to the C++ example, and we're going to talk about why that is superior in this instance. Okay, now for the sort of combo example, right? When you harvest something, it casts to an item entity, which is a custom class that I made. And then it picks that up, and then in here, we destroy the actor and then we add the thing to the player inventory. Now this dude is over here. And the reason we do C++, you might have figured it out already. But the reason we do C++ is because pointers exist, right? So instead of removing the map pair and then adding it back on, right, we're pointing, right? We're pointing to the inventory map pair. We're directly pointing to that. We're manipulating that directly instead of getting the map, removing something and then adding it back on, right? We're manipulating the value that's already there instead of wiping it and then reinserting it, right? And then if we haven't found it, so if it doesn't contain the item ID, we do the same thing that we did in the blueprints earlier. We just add it to the map. But this here, this one-liner here, it's way simpler than doing the whole, okay, I want to find the thing in the map. I want to store that in a temporary variable. I want to wipe that pair from the map. We want to do the temporary variable, we want to adjust that, and then we want to add the thing back on. It just makes the job so much easier. So anyway, the remove item thing does sort of the same thing. However, we check for null pointers and we do the whole thing. Display inventory just basically displays the thing, displays items, values. We're doing it green so we know what's C++ and what's blueprint, and then This one just displays the inventory. I'm going to work on it further because this is an actual game that I'm working on. Anywho, this boy, line 37 here, that's the most important bit. Now we're going to look at how class inheritance works, right? Because this is a little bit unusual. So we're going to edit this guy, right? We're just going to like have a look at him. Class settings, as you can see, it inherits from inventory component. Now that is your C++ class. So essentially what's going on, so we're doing BP inventory from, rather, U inventory component, which is the C++ class. Comp. And then that inherits from actor component, right? So there's an extra layer here, but that's perfectly fine. So as you can see, there is an extra layer here because this inherits from something which inherits from the actor component. Doing it this way makes it so I can do these one-liners and do basically a compact version of the functionality that we already had. I'm just refactoring it into something easier to read, easier to manage, and easier to add on to as we go, right? And that's pretty much the whole reason I'm doing C++ in this project, is because of this pointer. Of course, I'm going to do multiple things in C++. I'm not just using C++ for the pointers, but that's the main reason I wanted to go over to C++. And I'm using C++ and blueprints sort of intertwined with each other, right? I'm doing a C++ class inherits from an engine class, and then a blueprint class inheriting from a C++ class, right? So let's say this entity base, it has some things, right? It has a lifespan. We have minimum lifespan, maximum lifespan. We're gonna have this calculate despawn time, which again over here we are calculating a few things and we're doing stuff and other things, but it's just way easier to do like one-offs in blueprints and then core functionality in C++, right? Blueprints you should only really use if you're gonna go for this whole C++ and blueprints malarkey. You should really only use blueprints if you absolutely have to, right? The BP inventory component here doesn't really do much except drop an item. And this is because we're gonna have to do data table rows, we're gonna spawn actors, we're doing a few things that has to do with interfacing with a level, right? So we're getting our line trace location, we're doing that, we're spawning this, we're getting the actor rotation, all the rest of it. But the actual thing here, there's not a lot going on. There is an inventory map, but that's pretty much it, right? We don't have the add to inventory or remove from inventory, even though we're calling it in the pickup. But this here is the method that we do in C++. Got it? Okay, so that's the end of that video. I don't know how long it took for me to do that, but I want to say it wasn't too long, so I could have said quick tip. So anyway, you can do a game with blueprint only, but I would advise you to at least look into C++. And again, like my inventory system that I did, it's way easier to manage that way. It's way easier. Well, first of all, you don't get that whole railway network thing that you get with blueprints. And secondly, finding shit is a lot easier, right? Finding, you know, the error in your code is a lot easier when you have a file and a line number, right? So anyway, that's the end of that video. Yeah, you got a comment, suggestions, anything, leave them down below. There's a Discord link down below. You can go ahead and get in touch with the community. I don't know what to tell you. I'm still early on doing this whole YouTube thing. Anywho, I'll see you a lot in the next one.